this whole dynamic between, journalists and players across all sports, more so cricket in India, has dramatically changed. And I would probably say that, the unfortunate events surrounding match fixing, etc., had kind of, made those even more stark. How do you see that change today? And has it made life for people like you much tougher in that sense?
I think what it's done is not made. I mean, I am just very grateful at this point that I'm not a 21-year-old journalist starting out. I'm just so grateful that I'm not a young journalist starting out, because it's particularly in cricket. In other sports, it is about, I cannot tell you how much simpler to do things. In Indian football, for example, I know that there is ISL and there is Let's Football and everything, but you have players that are, along with being accessible, completely outspoken. They say whatever they want about whoever they want, players, coaches, whatever. So and I just started covering, doing a little bit of writing on Indian football when I was with ESPN for about 4 years. And it was just like, oh my God, this is heaven. So you picked up the phone and there's, cricket particularly has changed out of recognition virtually. I don't think match fixing was as much of a thing as it was a thing of the numbers of journalists that increased, the advent of television, news television into this whole business, and the general suspicion of journalists per se. So like that, everyone's out to get us. And what's happening now, the other thing that has happened is, I don't know whether you've been following this. Of course, who has not followed it? Ashwin's great interviews with Sridhar about the India-Australia series that just ended. Those little segments that he did, talking about various, not little, very, very detailed. It was like basically he was doing all our work for us. And they were wonderful interviews, and they were just, it told you great stories, which you would have had to, as reporters, we would have had to work like donkeys and dogs to get out to get that material, basically. So we were really happy. And then someone said that, oh, they're not going to need us anymore, because I said, but what happens when you lose and the team doesn't do well? Then what's going to happen? I'm sorry, but we are the sort of the guys that must cause the problem. And every time somebody gets offended if you write something mean about them, if they when they lose, or you do, so then it gets very difficult to tell them that. And of course, everyone gets offended. And if I was in their place, I also would get offended. I would get angry. But at the same time, as you grow older, you would help that there's some kind of balance that comes. When players retire, they turn into completely different people. They can't turn into completely different, accessible, chatty by and large, unless you have pissed them off so badly that they won't talk to you. I don't know, ever. So it's that kind of this thing.
You've had your share of sharp words at you from big players who've been upset by what you've written about them.
Not mean words. I mean, like not like I have to say this about Saurav Ganguly, that I have said just horrendous things about him. I said I have written not unfair. I've said what according to me are absolutely fair things I have said about him. I have said truthful things about him. But it's like water of a duck's back. He is a complete gentleman when it comes to that. He does not take any. Either he's going to send a hit squad and just kill me one day and then it's all done. But he's just completely, almost sagely in that sense, that he's almost like, he has this kind of regal kind of approach to it. That it's just the rabble are shouting. They have to shout. They're rabble. They will, so it's like that. But the thing is, you have exchanged words with players and you've tried to explain your position or a journalist position to them, and it's gone on for some time, and you've had about a year in which they've been like Cold War and they will not talk to you and all that, and then it's kind of found itself because you have taken pot shots at somebody else whom they may not also like, So, or I understand where you come from kind of a position. It's not like it's said, but it's almost unsaid, and it sort of returns to its own equilibrium in that sense. But that is a particular generation of player that you grew up following and covering and so on. Not like the younger bunch of players. It's much more different. It's very formal. It's sort of in the post-Dhoni era, it's completely changed. So I did a lot of traveling, particularly Ganguly, Dravid, a little bit of Kumble's captaincy as well, and a little bit of Dhoni's early sort of time, early captaincy when he was just around the World Cup, just before the World Cup. So it was a different. So those players are the ones that you have some kind of equation with.
Right.
Younger people, it's like you're starting absolutely afresh. So if you have, and now they've got managers and there's these various
Yeah.
layers of gatekeepers,
Yeah.
and they've got social media that's there.
Yes.
I mean, I suppose it's the same with every large sport when it grows that big and it has these stars. But you feel a bit sad. So I said this somewhere else that we are not going to remember players of the quality of Rohit Sharma or Virat Kohli by the Instagram messages or their video podcast or the interviews that they gave to Mark Nicholas or whoever it is. They will be remembered for generations to come by the words that were written about them in a way that was just, oh, he is a fantastic batsman, beyond that kind of a thing. There has to be more, in a way. I'm very happy that I belong to the generation that had Dravid, Kumble, Srinath, Tendulkar, Ganguly, Lakshman, and so on, because it's like we took out all our great energies and our sort of complete emotional response to the way they played and what they did and what they were able to do, and it's out there and it's in words. All of us, like a whole generation of journalists of my sort of age, and not my age, some younger as well, that wrote that. It's very extensively covered.